The following program is a locally produced feature presentation. DuBois TV proudly supports our local community by providing airtime and support for educational and community development related video programming that is created by our local schools, nonprofit groups, and independent video producers. DuBois TV encourages and welcomes content from our local communities. Please visit us online at duboistv.net and contact us for more information. And now, please enjoy our feature presentation.
This video is brought to you by EdgeTV, the school of choice.
I'm Cindy Haynes, the owner of A Style for You. I am a volunteer at EdgeTV.
Parents know the value of an education that works.
My son was a student here for 3 years and then went on to his auto body career and then on to college. This is like the real world in here. It's just like they're in their job while they are here. These kids are very prepared to go on to a secondary school. They can do whatever they want.
Take a video tour online at jefftech.us.
You are watching The Digital Edge, original educational programming produced by the students of the Digital Media Technology program at EdgeTV. Visit us online at dmtstudio.net.
Digital Edge is made possible in part through the underwriting support of Lock Haven University Clearfield campus. Offering a strong focus on academics and a supportive learning community, LHU Clearfield will help you achieve your educational goals. Lock Haven University at Clearfield offers convenience and personal service.
Whether you are a student coming to us right out of high school or an adult learner returning to school to complete a degree, we are very certain that LHU Clearfield is the place for you. Give us a call to schedule a visit. We hope to see you soon.
Underwriting for this episode of The Digital Edge is provided by Lifespan Family Services, a premier social service agency committed to providing excellent care and culturally competent services. The goal of Lifespan Family Services is to embrace a strength-based perspective that works to lead clients to positive outcomes and healthier relationships. Learn more about Lifespan Family Services by visiting their website at www.lifespanfamilyservices.com or call 814-938-4408.
Welcome to another episode of The Digital Edge. My name is Mr. Otero, coming to you from the IT Academy Studios at EdgeTV in Reynoldsville, Pennsylvania. Today we are going to be discussing with a panel of my students a career pathway that, well, maybe not a lot of kids are thinking about, but they should. Valid, exciting. We're talking about careers in media in the United States military. And our special guest today, Staff Sergeant Jonathan Snyder, who comes to us from the United States Air Force. He is a combat photographer, credentials, has had amazing experiences, and is going to offer his insights and career advice to our young people here. And our first 4-camera shoot that we have going on here today with an audience of our students from the Digital Media Technology program. These guys are going to ask some questions of our special guest today and engage in the conversation here through our wireless microphone. We'll get to that in a little bit. And right off to the left, I have two of my bright young freshmen, Taylor Boleen and Jesse Diven. Jonathan Snyder, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Great session this morning. We appreciate the insights. We talked a lot about your background, about the career pathways in media. Why don't you start off with telling us a real-world, exciting story about your adventures out there in the world of serving your country and military media.
Okay. A typical deployment or mission, I was on an aerial documentation team. There was 3 people on the team. We have a photographer, which was myself, a videographer, and also a journalist. Since then, we've kind of been downsizing and merging career fields. So now that typical deployment would be just me writing and taking photos all in one, everything like that. So we would go out, we would find either some stories by communicating and talking with people and stuff like that, different units, talking with their leadership, saying, hey, you got anything going on, or is any individuals you want to highlight, and just kind of doing research and everything like that. So once we kind of figure out the story that we want to do, we'll pitch it to our leadership. They'll approve it, and then we coordinate all our air traffic, our airflow, and everything like that, jumping on a military aircraft, a C-130 or C-17, to get to that location.
Wow.
So it's pretty cool. Yeah, you get to do a lot of the traveling, and it's definitely a lot of back-end coordination. So once you get to that location, generally, we would spend typically about 3 days to a week, upwards maybe 2 weeks, depends how complex the story is to tell. Absolutely. How complex it is to tell the story. Once we're finished documenting it and we edit all the photos, the video, the written piece to this complete package, we'll send it to our editors. The editors will review everything. They'll look at the writing. Is it AP style for the writing? Make sure the photos are good to go. Nothing in there that would be, discredit or security or safety concerns or anything like that, and then they'll scrub the video, the same thing. Once then they'll release the video. We actually, once everything's released, we do have our own kind of marketing agency. So we send it to the server called Defense Imagery and Operations Center, and that's one is also Defense Video, DIVIDS, it's Defense Information Distribution System, and their entire job is to archive and / market our photos to the publications, Fox News, CNN, Time, and all, biggest publications as possible. And if your products are up to par, it's not always guaranteed, but if they are quality enough, they will use it. They will run our stuff, especially because it's free. Everything we shoot is public domain. And so that's a great incentive for them to use our products. Also, we get a much better access, in my opinion, to these type of situations than the civilian media. We have embedded journalists and everything like that, which get great access and everything as well. But typically, maybe the more hot missions and everything like that, they typically won't tag along as a combat photographer would.
Tell us a little bit about one of your more memorable deployments.
Gosh, well, here's a good story. So I was doing a story on security forces in Bagram in Afghanistan. So our typical one were coverage of them. They didn't get a whole lot of coverage that much, so we were documenting their mission of doing security and patrols right outside the base. So making sure that there was no bad guys doing anything or activity, kind of a presence patrol. So this one security forces airman that I was tagging along with, during his routine patrol, every week this kid would come up to him, and basically he was badly injured. So the kid was, the story behind the kid was he was stealing gasoline from another villager. The villager caught him, thought it was an appropriate punishment to dump gasoline on him and set him on fire.
Oh my God.
So a terrible situation. But so the young kid, Afghani kid, approached security forces, showed him his leg that was badly burned, and the security forces airman has been providing medical aid for about 6 months, entire deployment every week, reapplying bandages and stuff like that, to the point where the kid was able to save his leg and didn't have any problems in the future. So that was a really interesting story, because I didn't see a whole lot of that. That was kind of a rare thing. But because the normal typical ones, you kind of go out, they do a lot of village patrols and talk with local leaders and stuff like that, and they hand out candy and stuff like that, and supplies and food and stuff like that. But that was really a unique thing I saw one time.
Speaking of unique, Jesse, look at some of these pictures up here.
Oh, absolutely.
I would consider being up there, taking that picture, a unique experience. Would you guys not agree? Right?
Look at that one.
Amazing. Now, we were talking about that picture with Skylar, actually. Tell us a little bit about that photo.
Absolutely. So a lot of these photos here are actually in the backseat of a refueler, which would be either a KC-135 or KC-10, and it's basically a flying gas station. So the aircrafts will fly up behind it, and they'll have this boom operator that'll basically hook up the aircraft and
There
start,
it is.
Yeah,
There-
right
that's
there.
a great shot. Great
Absolutely.
timing. We didn't plan that either. That was that was awesome.
Exactly. So it'll refuel the aircraft. So it actually is a lot cheaper to do that versus them landing and refueling. They can go refuel, then they can go back into their dogfighting training and whatever they need to do to get their training done or their mission done. So it's actually it's a great view because you got this giant window in front of you. You're sitting down in basically a seat or
look at
laying
that.
down. And a seat, and you just got the best view in the world.
That's just incredible. I mean, the colors are so vivid. Everything's so striking. It almost looks as if it was an airbrush painting, doesn't it? That's
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is
So
incredible.
the
And
real-
this was taken over Alaska?
That's taken over Alaska.
That's what I thought.
And the nice thing about that particular day was the light was highly diffused, and then on top of that, the aircraft was blocking enough of that.
Yeah, you weren't getting the harsh sunlight.
Absolutely, the lighting was just perfect that day.
Yeah.
So very, very lucky on my account.
Okay.
It's all about the lighting.
That's just incredible.
Like that right there is awesome.
Absolutely.
Now, how often do you get in combat photography? How often do you get an opportunity to get up in the skies like this?
Well, it all depends on the mission and the job. Like, for example, when I was up in Alaska, we have this big exercise we do every year, about three to four times a year, called Red Flag Alaska. So all the pilots from around the world basically have to do this to become a fighter pilot, go through these dogfights and training and everything like that. So that 4 times a year, which would last for about 2 weeks or so, I would go over there and talk to flying units. Hey, I'm a photographer, and blah blah blah, with the public affairs unit, and we coordinate that, and I would jump on the refuelers and go up and take photos of the refuelers. At that time in my career, it was pretty young, just kind of starting out in the first few years. I didn't have all the necessary qualifications and training that I have now to jump in the backseat of an F-16. Oh, I'd love to do that, but there's a process I have to go through and training and everything like that. But now that I have that training, I've flown in the backseat of F-16s.
Wow.
So it kind of comes in time.
Now, we have a video up here that's playing from the 2nd Combat Camera Squadron. Tell us a little bit about your unit and explain the different units and potential career pathways to our students here in the afternoon. And we did this
Absolutely.
for our other episode for the morning crew.
So something you want to keep in mind is there's 2 career paths you can head down. You can go through the photojournalism career path that I'm on, or you can go through the broadcast journalism career path. And the significant difference is obviously the broadcasting, you got more video and broadcasting elements. Some example things that you would do in that career field is you would do productions. The combat camera unit that I'm at, we have 2 missions. We have a documentation mission, which is the combat camera side, which I'm on, and we have a production house that does very high-level Air Force productions, highlighting different capabilities or whatever the Chief of Staff or the Secretary of Defense wants to produce. And so they have, again, just everything you see here at this studio, we have that plus additional stuff. So also another thing that broadcasters do, we have Armed Force Network, AFN, which is all overseas, and they have their own TV shows that they produce, commercials they produce, and they broadcast live television to overseas deployed individuals. So you can get them their football and everything like that.
Oh, wow.
Also, they have...
They actually, like what we're doing here, newscasting.
Absolutely.
And they have the whole...
They do a
whole
daily
setup, yeah.
news program, and they use content that the photographers or other broadcasters in the entire Air Force at the little bases will also produce, and they'll air that on that TV program. So I've had photos or multimedia projects I've produced get aired on that TV show for the audience that's overseas and,
Sure.
and deployed and stuff like that. So that's kind of how everything kind of filters in together, and you're all working towards this product. Okay, so on top of that, you can also do a radio show, which is really interesting. So you get all these different facets of jobs that you can do.
You were saying this morning that there's DJs.
Yes, there's DJs. Yeah, you get your own little radio show, play music and stuff like that, and have fun with it.
That's cool.
So there's some really cool.
So there's
things
an
you can do.
actual entertainment side to this too.
Yes.
I mean, that's fascinating.
Yes, that's all part of the AFN part of the broadcast journalism career field. And now the photographer part, the photojournalism part, every base has public affairs office, which when I was at my first base, the public affairs office, every week we're producing a newspaper. So we would do stories around the base and stuff like that and take photos, and we'd produce this weekly edition called the Arctic Century. And we also have transitioned over to a website now, so I don't believe they're printing that anymore because of budget cuts, but everything's online now. And there's still a lot of bases that produce a weekly newspaper. And it's really, really interesting. So
we have a magazine over here as
absolutely.
well.
So a little higher up, it was our flagship magazine called Airman Magazine. And these are a little bit dated. These are a little old. I don't have anything in these, but I've had stuff of mine featured and published in Airman Magazine over the years I've been in. Again, with budget cuts coming down, they no longer print the magazine. However, they have the website, and we also have a iPad motion magazine incorporating video and multimedia assets and telling the Air Force story. It's crazy how the technology has evolved and changed, and it's really, really fun. It's a great new way of telling stories. So that's a lot of stuff where the photographer, photojournalism products are going to go. On top of that, we do a lot of studio photography. So if people need official photos, they come in, we take their official photo. We also do crime scene investigation photography. So say if some government vehicle is in a car crash, they need documentation for the case or investigation. So you take photos of that. Another thing we do is standard, photojournalism, telling stories through photos. Let's see, we do a lot of aerial documentation, combat documentation as well. And let's see, another big thing we do is also there's a medical unit that specifically does medical photography. So that's really interesting. So there's some very unique missions and stuff like that. And there's even more than that. There's more journalism type stuff that you can do as well. They have a job where you work for the Air Force Public Affairs Agency, and you do social media, so your Facebook and everything like that. They also have another job where you work for Stars and Stripes. I don't know if you ever heard of Stars and Stripes newspaper.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So they have positions where you work for them, and you travel around and specifically write and take photos for that publication itself, and that's your main job. And so there's some really, really unique, really, really awesome opportunities that you can do in this career field. I also want to make note that every branch has this type of career field. The Army has photographers and videographers, the Navy, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, but each one does it differently. And I want to make note that the Air Force, I'm a little biased, is a lot better at it. I say that because every year we have competitions, award competitions, and the Air Force generally wins every year in those competitions. I give you an example. The Navy, what they've done in recent years, they've taken all the career fields of media, journalism, photography, video, graphics, lithographer, and some other weird ones, and merged it all into one career field where every place that you go new, you might be doing, all right, your video for the 3 years that you're here, then you move on to another place, now your photo for 4 years here, and you constantly got to relearn or learn that job. So the Air Force doesn't do that. Once you're a photographer or photojournalist, you're on that career path unless you decide to switch.
Why do you suppose that is?
It's a manning thing. So each location and shop has to have this position billeted. So we need 3 videographers and 2 photographers to able to get the mission complete at this location. So if you're available to move, and okay, we need to move you here, but the only positions available is that job, that's what you're going to do for the Navy.
Sure.
For the Air Force, the same thing is, all right, we have a photo position open up at this location. We're going to look through all the photographers and see who's available to move, and we'll move them to that location, and then that'll fill that vacancy.
Great. Hey, I want to open up the floor
Yes.
here to our audience and our students up here, Jesse and Taylor, in a second. I'd like for you to comment from a instructor's standpoint. Talk to my kids a little bit about the importance of keeping your mind open in terms of career pathways and accepting and understanding engaging in new technologies, not necessarily what you want to, personally find fascinating or interesting, because you started out wanting to go for video.
Absolutely.
Kept an open mind, ended up going towards photography, and look where you ended up. So, open-mindedness.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was my original plan. I was going to go to college for broadcast journalism. Unfortunately, in high school, I didn't have a great opportunity that you have here with this technology in the studio at Du Bois Area High School. But so when I looked at my options, I was looking at college. Really couldn't pay for college because about $80,000 when it was all said and done, starting out at $20,000 a year job didn't make a whole lot of sense. So it's like, how am I going to pay for college? Well, Air Force, they have media jobs. They had, broadcasting and photography, and at that time, graphic design. So I talked to the recruiter. I was like, hey, I'm really interested in the broadcasting part because that's kind of what I wanted to go to college for. Well, unfortunately, at that time, the job just wasn't available. There was too much people in the career field. It's all comes about availability. So, but he said photography was available. So I was like, okay, that's the foundation of video, and I think I'll enjoy that quite a bit. So I chose that, and after 3 or 4 months of doing the job in the Air Force, I was like, I'm a lot better at this. So, so because of that, it's taken me, around the world to documented so many amazing stories, done disaster documentation from the tornado that ripped through Moore, Oklahoma.
Wow.
So, some really amazing stuff. Because of that willingness to adapt or be flexible. And the funny thing is, having that background back in high school of doing, video editing and broadcasting like that, the convergence of technology nowadays, they're putting full HD definition video capabilities into the DSLRs and the cameras. So taking that, what I've learned back then, and applying it to now has come kind of full circle and producing multimedia packages and storytelling with photo and video from that camera system, and essentially becoming like a backpack journalist. So it's kind of helped me out in the long run, being a little bit kind of a jack of all trades, but I'm still mastering in photography because that's making me a lot more marketable in my quality of products.
Sure, absolutely. But down the road, from an employee's standpoint, if you're a master of photography, but you don't know anything about setting up a live web stream, or you don't have any clue how to take the beautiful picture you took and optimize it for internet use, or you don't understand how all these technologies are merging together with video and multimedia presentations, as you're saying,
it makes you less marketable.
You're less marketable, absolutely. So that's the importance of the broad picture, and then hopefully, kids, at the end of 4 years here, you find something that you want to focus on and really go for that. So I'm glad to hear you say that message. These guys have an amazing opportunity before them, and I wonder sometimes if the kids really understand. You've been out in the world, you know what it takes, and you've seen other facilities. I wonder sometimes if they really appreciate or understand what we have here in our program and our school. It really is phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, this is way better than an opportunity or technology than I had when I was going through high school. If this was available back then, I would take full advantage of it. That's no question about it. And the thing is too, because once you take this and you learn this marketable skills, and if you decide to, pursue this out in the civilian world or even the military, you're going to have a leap up from everybody else. You're going to have a leg up. You're going to be, ahead of them, ahead of the curve. So, and that's, again, it's going to make you more marketable.
Absolutely.
And give you kind of an edge over everybody else.
Absolutely. Taylor, Jesse, any questions for our esteemed special guest today?
What goes through your mind whenever you're taking these photos?
Well, I'm always thinking about the story. So it all depends what I'm doing too. So if I'm covering a normal story, I'm thinking to myself, like, what's the story of this person? Like, what am I trying to do? So, I'm trying to get that visual variety, wide, medium, close up. I'm looking for moments, small, interpersonal type of quiet moments, and just trying to show that personality of that person.
Kind of like our photographers are
Absolutely,
doing here.
Yeah, they're doing a great job.
Daleen and Garrett in the background. You guys can probably hear the shutters going off. They're documenting this and taking tons of still pictures, and looking for that personal moment, like you're saying.
Absolutely. So you're capturing that.
It's amazing how on you have to be. You know, I'm not a photographer myself, but I've been doing video work for years, and it always astonishes me how exhausted I am after an extensive shoot, especially if you're in a situation where there's a lot of action going on, intense situation. I mean, to have to be on and literally eyes in the back of your head and keeping your ears open for looking for that story in that moment.
Absolutely.
It's exhaustive.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and that's the crazy thing is like, you know, everyone, when we do a mission outside the wire, we're wearing full body armor. We have our full combat load.
Yeah,
M4,
you're a soldier
M9.
too.
And on top of it, we have our camera gear. And I got 2 full DSLR heavy cameras with the big lenses and everything on there. So you have an additional weight on top of what everybody else is carrying. And then, you know, after you're done documenting that 8 or 12-hour mission, you know, everybody's going home and relaxing or, you know, doing what they do. Now I got to start editing and getting products to be pushed out because, you know, it's a very short news cycle. It's, you know, stuff needs to be as fast as possible out there, which can be tough sometimes because I still have to go through my editor and get approval before I can even send anything out. So that kind of slows down the process. But again, you're working a lot more hours than everybody else, and it's very, very tiring. You can burn yourself out if you're not careful.
Oh, I can imagine. And you've been doing this now for how long?
A little over 9 years now.
9 years.
So I'm at a halfway point, almost.
There you go. Jesse, any questions for our guests, or should we take it to the audience here?
What type of guns do you guys use?
Okay, that's a good question. When I'm typically outside the wire, I'll have an M4. It's the shorter, smaller version of the M16.
You say outside the wire.
Well, whenever I'm off base on a combat control or something like that, where it's kind of more hostile area. If you're on base, you're inside the wire. When you're off the base, we're past the security checkpoints. You're exactly. You're danger's all around. You got to have your head on a swivel. Exactly. So whenever kind of walking around inside the base and stuff like that, generally you just have like a sidearm, an M9 or something like that. Not to have the whole combat gear on and stuff like that that you do outside of the base.
And I think this morning we touched on this, but do you guys think that he goes through the same, the actual military and combat training that people that are not in the media wing go through? What do you think?
What I think is that you go through all that, but like on the outside, you still do your own thing with the media and stuff.
Well, what's the question?
If you're going through the same training, the combat training that your colleagues do that aren't in the media wing.
Okay. All right. So, wrap my head around this. So basically, for my job, we actually go through for the combat camera portion because within the public affair, everybody falls under the public affairs umbrella. As a combat camera unit, we go through additional and much more combat training than our counterparts in just like a PA shop. Or even, it all depends on your job. So if your job is, say, like an operator, like a pararescue man or basically special forces or something like that, they're going to go through way more training than we will. Absolutely, because they're the experts and like that. Our job is just to get trained up to the level and capability that will become an asset to their team and not a liability. So
same basic training as everybody else.
Everybody goes through basic training.
Right.
Absolutely. You go through the 8.5 weeks at Lackland, and once you go there, then you go to your technical school training at Fort Meade, Maryland, called DINFOS, Defense Information School. And that they'll teach you how to basically, they take nothing about photography or videography or broadcasting, and then they teach you how to do that. They build you up all to the same level. And then once you get done with that, you go to your first base, and then you do on-the-job training, and you'll go through some books, basically teach you how to do your job, be more proficient. So that usually takes about 2 years, and you're still doing your job as part of it. So not only are you producing photos for the base paper or photos for publication or documenting something, you're constantly going through the upgrade training and the on-job training, and this is only making you a better photographer or better videographer. And so it's nonstop. You're constantly getting better. So give you another example too. Once I've been in for about my 4-year mark. I had the opportunity to go to Syracuse University for a year as a college student for photojournalism, and the Air Force paid for it. So it pretty much paid me to go to college.
That's great.
And that's again continuing my education and making me better at my job. And again, it's better storytelling. It only helps. It helps them out as well.
Yeah, you use that term a lot, storytelling.
Yeah, absolutely, because that's what I'm doing. I tell stories. So
with visuals.
Visual stories, absolutely, through the facets of audio or video or photo. You know, it goes back to the backpack journalism. Is everything's kind of going that direction. Because we kind of follow whatever the civilian media is doing. We take note of that and we try to follow them. They're usually ahead of the game. Then they switched over to HD. We switched over about a year or two later. You know, everything as far as the convergence of media and stuff like that with multimedia, they've been doing it for a few years. Still pretty new, but we're starting to incorporate that a lot more in our products. And everything getting right now is starting to switch over to 4K. So, you know, next probably 5 or 6 years. We just purchased our first 4K camera here this year. So it's crazy how fast technology is moving. But that's more so for the production house than the actual the news pieces and everything like that.
Sure.
So.
Our crew here, I know you guys had some questions you were thinking about yesterday. Any questions for our guest?
Yes.
Xavier, here. Come on, here. Hand him that microphone.
There you go.
And have a seat.
All right. I know, like, you go through, like, these predicaments, like you said, with that boy and his leg catching on, like, the man poured gasoline. Was there any other experiences like that were much more serious or fatal?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's all part of combat. So,
I mean, you do get deployed to active war zones.
Absolutely.
I mean,
yeah, I mean, it's kind of the hazard of the job. To, you know, you have either get shot at, or, you know, the biggest problem we had over there was like IEDs, which is the improvised explosive device, and you know, you're just driving along the road, and all of a sudden, you know, you might get blown up. So technology has over the years improved. It's not as bad as it used to be. We used to have the Humvees, which couldn't really take a hit, but now we got the MRAPs with the V-shaped hulls and much better armor that, you know, you have a higher chance of survival rate if you do get hit. And it's tough because we do a lot of training, try to identify those type of warning signs or identifiers in the road for that kind of stuff. So you're constantly looking out the window and you're looking for any kind of like disturbed earth or wires sticking out or anything like that. The unfortunate part is in Afghanistan specifically, there's so much trash out alongside the road that you know, it's just trash. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of, you can't tell if it's an IED or just a tire or a piece of like empty cup or something like that. So sometimes you just kind of have to press forward and you know, look for those identifiers that you go through training. So absolutely. So again, yeah, it's kind of the hazard of the job. Next question.
Any other questions? Guys, really? Look at what this guy's doing. You're just being shy. You have to have questions. I mean, my goodness. Anybody know what he makes? Have any idea what somebody entering into the military media wing? Aren't you looking at getting a job someday and paying the bills? Would you be interested? Guys, seriously, come on. Look at...
I've had a lot of friends use this career as a stepping stone for the outside. So they would do maybe 4 years, 6 years, or some have actually done 8 and got out. I have one friend particularly. His niche that he specializes in is high dynamic range time-lapse photography.
Wow.
So absolutely. So it's kind of a small market, and there's stuff doing personal projects got enough attention. This is right after he got out of the military. Has anybody watched House of Cards?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's their intro. They made the intro for that.
No kidding.
Yeah, so
wow.
They've had some pretty cool clients. They've had clients for ESPN. They did a time-lapse product for the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. So they're constantly just doing these really, really awesome projects. And this is after the military. This is their personal business.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they used everything they learned while in the military to like the technology and the photography and everything like that, and made a a pretty successful career so far.
That's outstanding.
So
well, hopefully you can hook us up with some of these people. That'd
absolutely, I have lots of
contacts. We
contacts.
can bring them in via Skype and do virtual interviews. That would be awesome.
Absolutely.
That would be.
Absolutely.
What do you think, Jesse? Pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Do you know where some of his photos have been printed and displayed? You ever hear Fox News? You ever hear the Wall Street Journal? You ever heard Time Magazine? You need to read more, boy! Right? Some pretty impressive credentials. Tell us a little bit about where your products have been seen.
Okay, absolutely. So, once our stuff gets released and we send it out to our marketing agency and stuff like that, Divids and Dymock, it's I don't control where it goes.
Of course.
It goes where it goes, and and the
they
photos,
put it on the wire, and who picks it up, picks it up.
Absolutely, and if it's good enough, they'll use it. And luckily enough, produce some images that have been produced in Time Magazine or Washington Times, Washington Post. NPR ran a story. The story wasn't exactly a positive story. It was about the nuclear, kind of down, not doing as good as it should be. But they used one of my photos regardless for the story. I'm appreciative they're using my stuff. So, yeah, even though it's not a positive story, it's still great being published. I've also had some stuff on PBS. Again, the major news networks. So, and also I've had stuff on AP and Reuters, kind of circulate to all the smaller newspapers as well. So everything I shoot for the military is public domain, so it doesn't cost them anything to use it. So it's an incentive for them to run a lot of our stuff when it pertains about the military.
So your career is in full swing now. What we are, as you see, young people, Central Pennsylvania, shy.
Yeah.
Just learning to step out of their shell and hopefully get out into the big, broad, mean world and make a living in media. The best advice that you can offer them?
Gosh, have a goal in mind. If you want to pursue media as a career in the civilian world, be flexible. Flexibility is key because you'll start out low as you can, work your way up, and you'll have other opportunities present yourself. Take those opportunities. Don't pass anything up. Also look into into the military and the media and stuff like that. It's a good stepping stone, or if you choose to stay for 20 years, it's also a very great career. I've traveled all around the world and all over the Middle East. I've been to nice parts too. Dubai was very beautiful. Kuwait and Qatar was very beautiful. Been to Indonesia. That was really nice. The only state I haven't been to yet is Hawaii. So plan I'll eventually get there.
I wanted to bring your attention here. We had a lot of comments this morning about this photograph. What is this we're looking at?
Okay, this is an exercise we document every year in Florida. It's in Herbert Field called Emerald Warrior. And it's an AFSOC and SOCOM exercise, which basically is Air Force Special Operations and Army Special Forces work together. And they go through basically with all the exercises. They have different scenarios that they do and different missions that they train on. And this is on a CV-22, which is basically it's a helicopter's vertical takeoff and turns into like airplane mode and flies very, very fast forward. And it transports a lot of troops. Typically with these, we transport a lot of Marines. So this is at night. We do during those exercises. Special operations love to operate at night. So you got a lot of dark situations that you run into. The light on the propeller is just kind of a signal to like, hey, that's where propeller is. Don't get too close to that. Again, this is at Emerald Warrior as well. That's at something else there. Emerald Warrior.
And now our photographer here, Daleen Tabasco, put together this.
Oh, okay,
and
excellent.
Who else helped you with that? Sonny. Sonny's not here today, unfortunately. Sonny Schubert, she helped put together this little slideshow.
Excellent. And that was really interesting on that portrait there. Yeah, this one here is a very slow shutter. I think it's like 20th of a second, really slow. So that's why you see the motion blur and the people moving in and out of the photo, the blur, the propeller, and everything like that.
I like that blue, that looks nice.
Absolutely, yes.
So do you ever see, that's the same way you ever see traffic shot at night and you see the trails from the traffic and the stars shot?
Absolutely. But, I'm looking at the composition, how people were kind of interacting in the frame, and I set the composition just how I like it, and just kind of have the action, shoot through the action, people running through the frame, and I'll pick the best of the sequence in there.
That's a cool shot.
Composition. Yeah, that was in a B-52 bomber. Those ones are very, you got, there's not much room to move around in those aircrafts. It's very, very tight.
Yeah.
And they got a little microwave oven so you can cook there because it's good, because the typical mission is usually no less than 8 hours. So, yeah, so if they do around the world, because they can go around the world, you can be up there for 20 hours or 30, you can be up there for days. Because they'll just air or refuel at different checkpoints.
They might leave Missouri and go fly
somewhere around the world. Yeah, somewhere else around the world.
That's incredible. And then come back.
And then come back and land. Yeah, absolutely. Wow. So, so you try to make really interesting shots because once you've been on one of those 8-hour flights, you pretty much shot everything. It's you got these little tiny windows to shoot through, so you don't get a great view, and you got a very tight, compact area where everybody's sitting. You can't really stand up in there because it's not high enough.
Wow.
So you try to find interesting photos by just like your students were doing here, they're kind of like going through behind the glass, trying to, go up high, get a low, and looking through reflections and stuff like that. Yeah. You're trying to make something every day look interesting.
Yeah, we'll throw some, when we do the post-production here, guys, and edit all this up and put our graphics and music in, we'll go ahead and throw some of your pictures in over time as well. So, did you guys get some behind the scenes here, showing the kids working in the booth and maybe through the glass? You want to go ahead and do that as well? That'd be great. Questions again, Xavier? You have the mic in hand. You still have any questions for Staff Sergeant Snyder? No.
Who's interested in the military at all for doing this kind of job?
Even open to the possibility.
Possibility. Just interesting.
Anybody? We had a couple kids this morning that were actually quite fascinated by this. Taylor, what do you? Well, I wouldn't have known. Getting to know her. Brand new student for us. Taylor Boleen, what is it about this that you find so interesting?
The whole idea of just combining basically the military life and the career you want to choose. That's the part that really fascinates me because you can do two things that you really enjoy.
Absolutely.
And it seems easier, kind of.
Easier,
kind of.
Because you're enjoying what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
It's a drag working a job just to pay the bills and hating what you're doing. I know that for a fact. And in this realm, media, Taylor, you're hitting it right on the head. It is challenging and it's fun, and you can get paid well. And this is fascinating what you're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's some interesting things. Remember Dave Roush at all?
I know Dave. We interviewed him, actually. He went on to New York and is
on the Bigger and Better Things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was really interesting because when he did a little Johnny on the Spot here and stuff like that, and I was talking to him a few years back before he made the New York
he was the
trip.
first guest on the Digital Edge when we started publishing this a year and a half ago. We brought him in via Skype.
Absolutely.
And we did. I got to see if he's home for Christmas.
Absolutely.
So we
but, we was kind of talking like that, kind of like, the career path I was going on and everything like that. And he was like, there's one thing you kind of have, an edge on, going through the military route is when he was doing kind of Johnny on the Spot or like that, making okay money, maybe a little over $20,000 a year.
Entry level, sure.
Entry level and like that, but there are no benefits for medical and everything like that.
Sure.
Versus, probably no good retirement or pension. Well, military has very good medical. Decent pay. I mean, you're not going to get richer than that doing it, but you're going to be comfortable lifestyle. And then it has a very good pension setup and like that if you choose to do the 20 years.
That's a career, yeah.
But there's also benefits, I says, as a stepping stone when you decide to get out. Now you have the GI Bill to pursue additional education or degrees of your choice. So some really awesome, again, stepping stone. Not only that, you learn how to do your job, you got experience. Because you run into that loop when you get out of college.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I got my degree, but now this job says I have to have 5 years or 10 years experience doing the job, but I need the job to get the experience.
Yep.
Catch-22, Catch-22. So that Catch-22 is no longer valid.
Because you got the experience.
You got the experience.
You've been doing it.
Exactly. So some really interesting things to think about when you're looking at that possibility.
That's great. A lot of women in the field?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
A big name in our career field as far as photojournalist is Stacy Pearsall.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, she had to get out about, I think it was a little over 10 years. She got injured, so she got medically separated. But she's since been that. She's been on Oprah, featured on Oprah for her photojournalism for the military. She's been featured in like Vogue magazine and like that for just an amazing individual. And she's, again, one of our top female photographers in the career field. And there's other ones as well, but hers it has most prominent story because of her. She's won military photographer of the year like 3 times.
Wow.
Which is a really amazing feat to accomplish.
Sure.
I've only gotten 3rd place 3 years in a row.
Is that all?
That's all.
Oh.
I'm getting there one day. But so she again like there's.
See, if you'd have went here, you'd have been
No, I would have had the edge over people. All right, so exactly. So yeah, there's a lot of gambit, and if you've been looking at the news now, they're trying to open up more career fields that weren't open to women in combat before. Now it's there's no holding anybody back. No limitations.
That's awesome. Well, there you go. Yeah, you never knew, did you? No, Jesse, what do you think about what you're hearing here?
It's pretty cool.
Pretty cool stuff, right? Okay, we can go ahead and wrap things up, unless we have any other questions from our panel in the audience here. No?
Anybody?
Okay, how about in the booth? You guys have any questions? McCowan, you always have a question. What? Are we done? We're getting the cut sign.
Oh.
There it is.
Yeah.
Okay, don't end it yet. All right. Closing thoughts, Jonathan Snyder.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. Again, it's a great opportunity for a stepping stone. If you look at this path in the military media, if not, that's okay. If you decide to do media as a civilian in the civilian world, look into professional workshops. Can't stress enough. Look into Eddie Adams' workshop. It's a great workshop. They bring in the best photographers in the industry, and they come and mentor and teach and lecture, and they also provide internships afterwards. So, yeah.
That's a good point. I think a lot of people don't, especially in today's day and age, they don't fully take advantage of the opportunity for continuing education through online or through just workshops. They think, how many of you guys even consider that? Well, I got to get my education. I got to go 4 years, blah, blah, blah. I got to go to college. There's tons of opportunity to tap right into the minds of some of the best and the brightest in whatever field that you're into through short workshops and getting continuing education credits. A lot of this stuff available online now as well. How about any budding photographers watching? Any online resources that you find very useful? And where can we go if somebody's interested in a career specifically through the Air Force Media Wing? Where can they go for some more information? So let's start with some online resources.
Absolutely. I mean, we have our main news site, af.mil, that a lot of our stories go there.
af.mil. Okay.
Yeah, just MIL. Because the airforce.com is the recruiting side.
Gotcha.
So that will just have information about the jobs. af.mil actually has stories from our little newspapers or local websites. All the best usually filters up to the top, and that's our highlight. So we always news, and they have weekend photos where they put photos up every week of the kind of the best shots and everything like that. So you can kind of see what a lot of the public affairs and photographers in the career field are producing at that location. Airman Magazine is our flagship magazine. If you Google Airman online, it'll take it to the website. If you also have an iPad, the app is free. You can just amazing imagery. From time to time, you might see some of my stuff pop up in there.
There you go.
So
and what about
look at the byline.
Resources, just tech resources.
Tech
that you
resources.
would recommend for people to check into.
Well, not really much tech resources, I'd say, for the military side, but the civilian side, MPPA.org, National Press Photographers Association, has a student pricing, and they have a lot of online resources and videos there for education. Another great resource, maybe down the road further, when you do this as a professional, is ASMP.org, American Society of Media Photographers, and that's more for business end type stuff. And if you plan on doing photography or broadcasting, expect to be kind of your own business type. That's kind of everything where everything's going. Everybody's working for themselves.
Setting up your own studio.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the thing too is, I can't stress enough, look into the business classes in college. Because if you don't know how to do finances and everything like that, or taxes, that's going to be really tough.
Your marketing as well.
Marketing is very
having
big.
an understanding of
Very big.
marketing systems combined with these technologies, these technological skills, you're a real asset to somebody.
Absolutely.
And an asset to yourself. If you're
Absolutely.
self-employed, you don't have to hire somebody else to be a marketing specialist.
Nope.
You got the production down, and you know how to promote your own business.
Absolutely. And the nice thing being in the military, we have a whole company dedicated to marketing our photos, but they only do it so far. I have to do additional marketing on my stuff too. So I'll give you an example here. Say I take a photo or do a story on this individual. I found out, what's your hometown? And they give me, it's like, oh, I'm from Georgia, Alabama. I was like, okay, great. I get Georgia, Alabama, what's your high school you went to, and everything like that. Once the package is ready to be submitted, I will go online, find the local newspaper for that area, look up the contact information, shoot up an email with all the products attached. Hey, just want you to know, the local hometown hero has been featured in this article, and 9 out of 10 times they'll run it in their newspaper.
Cool.
And also for any kind of big stories, when I did Moore, Oklahoma, the tornado disaster.
Sure.
The nice thing going to these workshops, I've accumulated lots of mentors in the industry. And I've contacted, hey, I'm covering this damage. Can I get an editor's contact information for AP and Reuters?
Mm-hmm.
So once I got that, once stuff was ready to go to push out, I would send an email to the wire service, and that's how it kind of went everywhere. So it's additional marketing on yourself.
There you go. Excellent. Jonathan Snyder?
Yeah.
Thank you so
Nice to
much.
meet you.
Staff Sergeant Jonathan Snyder, I should say. You are watching The Digital Edge, and today we're talking about careers in military media. My co-hosts, Taylor Boleen and Jesse Dibbins, say hey, guys.
Hey.
And we are out. Thanks so much to Jonathan Snyder, Staff Sergeant Jonathan Snyder, United States Air Force, for coming in and sharing his expertise with us today. On The Digital Edge, coming to you from the IT Academy Digital Media Technology Studios in Reynoldsville, Pennsylvania. And our school is
Jeff Tech.
Jeff Tech. And you can find out more online at jefftech.us. And for our program, specifically Digital Media Technology, if you're interested, go to dmtstudio.net, where you can find student projects, portfolios, and, of course, the latest episode and archives of the Digital Edge television show. Again, my name is Mr. Otero. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time out on the Digital Edge.
Looking for a great career in high technology? Whether you want to start your own business or go on to college, the Digital Media Technology program at Jeff Tech offers the most advanced training and studio available in our region. Learn audio and video production, live web streaming, 3D animation, and special effects. Graphic and web design using pro software, Photoshop, Fireworks, Dreamweaver, and After Effects, InDesign, Premiere, Wirecast, and much more. Full-time and part-time enrollment options are available for high school students and even adults in our area.
These situations that I've seen here at Jeff Tech are purely hitting the college level. I mean, there are people who are waiting 4 years out of high school to go into 4 years of college to do the same things that the students here are doing right now. And so, needless to say, you want the jump start, this is the place to be.
Explore the Digital Media Technology program in the IT Academy at Jeff Tech. A whole new world of opportunity awaits you. Visit us online, dmtstudio.net.